You know, I find these days that Christians in America can go around looking a little defeated. It's like things are bad. They're only going to get worse. But I believe in Jesus, I guess, a little bit. Maybe. On a good day. But no, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world.
Welcome to the God-Centered Life with Josh Moody. Well, we've been talking about 2020 vision. Now it's the state of the vision. Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 16, the passage that we'll be basing today's study on. Josh Moody is senior pastor of College Church located in Wheaton, Illinois. We're going to hear a lot about that church today. We're glad you're joining us for the study. Josh, we're taking a look at a portion of the Sermon on the Mount. But interestingly, we're combining that with a look behind the curtain at College Church. And while this is addressed to our congregation, there's so much more here that applies to any believer.
It applies to any believer, to any church, to live with a gospel-orientated, gospel-centered, God-centered vision that then has both a local and global impact, and how we need, Todd, all our churches to have that sort of vibrancy and spirit-inspired biblical commitment to the mission of Christ. And so that's what all this State of the Vision is about.
Fantastic. We're putting a practical bow on our 2020 Vision series with this message from Matthew 5. Here's Josh.
So the title I've given for the sermon this morning is The State of the Vision. Where are we? And where are we going? All that title is quite carefully worded. What I don't want to do is to give you the impression that suddenly, Pastor Josh has a vision. It reminds me a little bit of the story of Peter Drucker, one of the great management leaders in American business life, of course. Peter Drucker was one time being on a panel, and Peter Drucker was asked this question: do you think the great American novel is going to die? And Peter Drucker's response was, as long as resumes are being written, the great American novel will never die. And I feel a little bit the same about some visions. As long as preachers get up there and share their vision, the great American novel will never die. So I don't want it to be unrealistic. On the other hand, by the very nature of who God is and what His gospel is and His hope for the world means that those of you who put your trust in Jesus this morning and recommit or commit their lives to Jesus are going to be part of a great movement of hope. Because we who believe in Jesus know how the story of history ends. He's coming back. So the sermon is going to be structured simply around these three words: you, salt, and light. You, salt, and light. First of all, you. Obviously, Jesus here is addressing you. He uses that word you quite frequently. You are this. You are that. Don't do this. Do this. You. But who is the you that he is describing? Well, to answer that, we've got to understand some of the context in the Sermon on the Mount. So this comes right after what the famous Beatitudes. Beatitudes just simply means blessed statements. And Jesus, in a series of blessed statements, describes blessed are they who do this. Blessed are they who do that. And then he turns to look at these disciples who are gathered around him on the Sermon on the Mount. He looks at them and says, blessed are you. I'm talking about you. And in the Beatitudes, it's a blessing of the kingdom. And he says, the way into the kingdom is poverty of spirit. That is, to enter the kingdom at all. At all. You've got to say, Lord, I'm so sorry. I'm not spiritual. I'm wicked. I'm a sinner. Save me. And if you this morning say that, then you'll be saved. You'll enter the kingdom of heaven. That's the first part of the Beatitudes. That may be the most important part of the message for you. The poverty of spirit. Lord, I need help. Help me. And then you'll receive the blessing of the King. And it can be for you. And then the second half of the Beatitudes, he describes what these people then are like. They're merciful. They're peacemakers. That's what they are like. And then Jesus turns to this small group of disciples gathered around him and says, it's you. It's you. And of course, it's meant to be so encouraging. You know, I find these days that Christians in America can go around looking a little defeated. It's like things are bad, and they're only going to get worse. But I believe in Jesus, I guess. A little bit. Maybe. On a good day. But no, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. It's meant to be encouraging. Look, with so much to be encouraged by. In this plan, there are several initiatives that we've been working on, and we've made good progress. One of them is that we're always committed to the Bible and prayer. And of course, we're committed to that from the pulpit, but also in Sunday school and in children's ministries and in small groups and prayer, not only Monday morning and Wednesday night, but we've had these new all-church prayer meetings on Sunday evening, which have been just filled with the Spirit and the glory of God, and they've been exciting, and there's this new commitment to prayer, and that's you. That's great. Be encouraged. We've also had an initiative that's built around women's ministry. It's a great strength of the church, but we want to build on that and emphasize that. So in the last year, we've called the first ever director of women's ministries for Cottage Church. And that ministry is just going from strength to strength. Several women have come to faith, I'm told, this year, and it's exciting. And yet that's not enough. So you're all aware that in this day and age, there's huge conversation, the Me Too era, huge conversation about how women are being treated. And my heart is, I want this church to be the kind of place where men and women thrive. And so we're in the process of putting together a really well thought through, coherent ministry philosophy paper just around the women, with all our biblical commitments in place, but the way that women will thrive, men and women will thrive in this place, keep on thriving. I want us to be known as a church that's about Jesus and the way that Jesus treated women. And you go, this is the kind of place that I'm a woman, I can be at home, I can be loved, there's nothing weird that's going to happen. It's a safe place, it's a godly place. And we're emphasizing that. We've made a lot of progress. We've still got some way to go. Another initiative that we've had there is around our pastoral residency program. For those of you who don't know, we've got this program to train up the next generation of pastors and preachers. And in the past, we've had 2 pastoral residencies each year. We have an initiative to increase that. So last year we hired 3, and then this year we're going to hire 2, and so we're up to a total of 5, because, I want you to see the snapshot, this picture. I was at a conference just a few weeks, maybe a month or so ago, and I was just hanging out with former pastoral residents and pastors at Cottage Church, and it was for me an amazing picture of all these thriving ministries that we have birthed, that you have birthed, now all around the nation and around the world. And so we've wanted to emphasize that. We're building on that. It's a thriving program. Be encouraged. It's something you are doing. Yeah, I know, it's just, you think of the world and all that's happening in the world. But actually, Jesus, just to this small group of disciples, he says, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. You want to have a big impact on the world. You want to change the world. Jesus is saying the church is not this holy club that is just about looking after itself. Church is an expression of the kingdom of God and the heart of God for the whole world, and that's you. So be encouraged. You. Then salt. Obviously, Jesus here talks about the salt of the earth. You are the salt of the earth. What does he mean by the salt of the earth? We tend to think of salt as something you just sprinkle on top of food to make it taste better. Obviously, they used it that way also in ancient times. But salt had a much bigger use in ancient times than it does in our world. In our world, if we want to preserve food, we put it in a refrigerator or a freezer or something like that. But they didn't have those techniques in the ancient world. So what they used was salt. And salt was used to preserve food. It was hard to get, it was expensive, it was rare, it was hard to harvest, and it was used to preserve food. So Jesus says, you are the salt of the earth. And what he means by that, this is how I put it, you are the global moral preservatives. That's who you are. By being who you're meant to be, and he says if salt loses its saltiness, it's no longer any good. What does he mean by that? Well, The chemical compound of salt, sodium chloride, cannot lose its saltiness. But ancient times, they often combined salt with other things. And if it was combined with too many other things, it got corrupted by dirt and all that kind of thing. Then no longer was it really salty. It no longer would do its stuff. And of course, that means we need to be who we're meant to be. We need to be pure, morally, spiritually, doctrinally. But you are the salt of the earth. And you can have that massive impact, that global, moral, preservative impact on the society around. You've got to be connected missionally to the world around, to the earth around, in order to have that impact, not of the world, but in the world as the salt of the earth.
How are the paths laid out? We'll answer that in a moment. But first, a quick reminder that GodCenteredLife.org is there for you. We'd love to hear from you. You can connect with us there. You can find other resources there. Past studies are there. Drop us a note. There's a phone number listed there, a snail mail address, all kinds of resources. That address, GodCenteredLife.org. Back into our study now. Here's Josh.
One of my leadership principles was learned from, I think it was Yale, it may have been Princeton, where they had a quad, a set of buildings with grass in the middle. And when you look at the grass in the middle, there are paths that go across from one door to another door, but they seem like they're not very, you wouldn't have put them there. They're all all the paths are all over the place. And the reason for that is the builders of that quad decided, rather than putting down the paths just how they thought they should go, they wait a year or two and see the way that people walked. And they put the paths down like that. And it seems as if God is doing something here. And we want to put the paths down where God is at work. And so in this, the west corner, the older corner, there's this school, Clapham School, that we've sort of been partners with for quite some time. The plan is they take over the west corner of that building and renovate that in a sort of first-rate, state-of-the-art kind of way. And of course, then we'll be able to use the facility there for Christian education, which has been one of our prayer needs when they're not there. At the same time, the middle portion, we're thinking of putting one of our resale stores, the Stars resale store, right there. They need more space, they need better space, but also it gives us traction from people in the community into the lifeblood of the church. And then in the newest, most modern part of that building, it's got enough space there to seat 450, 500 for a worship space, which gives us, this is the other piece that we've been looking at, worship space. And it seems as if God is at work here, fitting this to the Crossings kind of space. Now, we've got in our initiative, boosting ministries to the next generations. That's how we express all this facility stuff. So we got this crossing space on one wing that allows us to engage missionally and in connecting with the culture, with some worship space, additional another worship space over there. And then we've got this space over here, which allowed us to build, just imagine it. There'd be like above ground for children. It would be, really well put together, state of the art for the families. We'll be boosting ministries to the next generation so that we're engaging outwards and deep in these ways. And I want you to understand, this isn't about facilities. This isn't about buildings. I have no interest in buildings whatsoever. None. My church planting days, I did a church plant where we bought and built. I know it's hassle and it's stress, and I've been through it. I have no interest in it whatsoever. What it's about is what's going on in the world and the culture outside, and God providing us with tools to get after that, to have a salt of the earth impact missionally, and to get behind that. I find it's interesting how hard it is sometimes for people to envision physical things. You think it would be easier, but in some ways it isn't. And there's actually a paradox behind that. It's called Moravec's paradox. Moravec is a computer scientist, and it used to be thought that computers would find it hardest, that require most computational power for abstract reasoning, like mathematics and playing chess and that sort of abstract reasoning, but actually requires much less computer power than they thought. What requires massive computer power is doing what I'm doing right now, which is walking, the physical, or what a toddler does, picking up a spoon and putting it in its mouth. Massive computer power. And similarly, I want you to think of these physical things as the spiritual impact they can have, the missional impact they can have, the global, moral, preservative impact they can have on both wings of the campus that God has given us to be stewards of. Well, then we come to the light. So you had you, salt, and light. You are the light of the world. And the same way, Jesus is building upon this missional impact, but he has a slightly different image. It's partly for emphasis, I think, but there's a slightly different addition to it as well. So the way I put it is like this: the salt of the earth, global moral preservatives, but now the light of the world, you are the global spiritual illuminators. Global spiritual illuminators. And we have in our plan, therefore, a lot of outreach things. Missions, big part of what we're emphasizing in our initiatives. It's one of our initiatives to massively increase that. There's a lot going on, and we know we need to get after it in a bigger way, but there's a lot going on. We have 100 missionary units long term. We have another 15 midterm. We support, I think it's 13 seminaries, and this is just huge. But not only the numbers, there are stories behind those numbers. So just as one example, I think now for the first time ever, we've been investing a lot in Ukraine over the years. And for the first time ever, the Ukrainians there, Christians, are not only looking after their own country and their own churches, but now they're becoming a multiplication mission movement, which is one of the things that we're seeing in the new mission world, a multiplication mission movement. So Ukrainians are being sent to the Middle East, to the countries that are hard for Europeans or Americans to get into. And it's an amazing multiplication thing, and you have been a part of that. Obviously, there have been a lot of other people involved, but part of your dollars, your investment, your love, your time has had that multiplication impact in Ukraine, the Middle East, and then there's 115 or so other mission units around the world. So it's massive. But we need to get after it even bigger, because the missions world is changing. There's lots more indigenous missions, and we need to figure out how to get after that in a bigger way so it doesn't completely burn out our mission staff, because all those units, of course, need pastoral care, looking after. They're doing it excellently. But how do we do that in an even bigger and better way going forward? We know we need to do that. We've got to get on with that. But not only has the global missions world changed, also the local mission world has changed as well. And the reality is, Cottage Church, we in Wheaton are increasingly a part of Chicago land. And what that means is there's more secularization, there's more religious diversity, and we need to be the light of the world. We need to get after that. And so in the budget, we have the position for an outreach pastor. And that outreach pastor, it's not going to be like social programming. That outreach pastor needs to have a heart for evangelism, a gift for evangelism, because it's global spiritual illuminators. It's not just something social change. If you want to have a big social change, then you've got to have a spiritual change. It's a hard issue. And so this individual, he needs to have a heart for the gospel, be a gifted evangelist, but also able to train us in evangelism and lead evangelistic programming throughout the year so we can build better structures around our already existing evangelistic outreaches like Christmas Eve and Easter, of course, and the other things that we do. And we need to get after that. We need to get after that in a big way, Cottage Church. The world is changing, and it's one of our initiatives. We're going to be able to get after it. But it's going to take you. You. There was a man called John J. Jones who felt a call to be a pastor, a preacher. And for various reasons, he resisted that call and became a lawyer. And he became a very successful lawyer. His son, Sam Jones, also became a lawyer, and a very successful lawyer too. But Sam Jones also became an alcoholic, and he wrecked his life. John J. Jones was on his deathbed. He was dying. He called his son to him. And on his deathbed, he looked at his son. He said this, "My boy, promise me I'll meet you in heaven." Well, the funeral came, and after the funeral, Sam Jones, his son, was obviously feeling a little discouraged and depressed and went to the bar and began to drink. And then as he was leaning on the bar and picking up another shot glass, there was a mirror behind the bar. As he picked it up, he saw his face in the mirror. Disheveled, spittle, a little bit of vomit. He smashed the glass. Gave his life to Jesus. Sam Jones became one of the most prominent and effective evangelists in the 19th century. Some say he led 500,000 people to Jesus. And that could be you. And you. I need you. First-time attender, I need you. Regular attender, I need you. You know, there's a new study done by Harvard University and what makes families thrive in America. It came out in 2016. And one of the things that it discovered was families that regularly attend church, and by regularly, they define that as once or twice a week. Families that regularly attend church, according to the study, are 50% less likely to blow up. I need you to commit to your family, and to commit to your family by committing to the church. That's what's going to help you thrive. If everyone who calls Cottage Church their home church turned up every Sunday, you know how many people will be here every Sunday? We estimate it's about 2,800, about another 800 or so on top, just by showing up. What a huge impact that could have. Easter weekend, Good Friday and Easter Sunday together, we had one of the largest attendances we've ever had, over 5,000. I need you to commit to your family. I need you to share about Jesus. It's a new survey out that shows that over 60% of Americans are open to hearing about Jesus, but only 30% of American Christians share about Jesus. You're going to fill that gap? I need you. There was a champion athlete who was asked once what made elite athletes succeed at that very high level. He said this: you've got to have the skill, but more important than that is the will. I need you. It's fascinating to me with all this, all my commitments to God's sovereignty and all Jesus' commitments to his sovereignty. He's the king giving this message. And he says elsewhere, I will build the church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. He will do it. But at this moment, he turns to these disciples and he says, it's you. Who's going to make it happen? You.
That's Josh Moody, and this is The God-Centered Life, a powerful reframing of how we navigate our week. I am salt. I am light. And Josh, it's easy to pass those attributes off to the professional ministers, but this message diffuses that notion, doesn't it?
Yes, I think those who are not in full-time Christian ministry can easily undervalue the extraordinary opportunity that they have. You just think about my life. Most of my life is spent talking to Christians, or if I am talking to non-Christians and they find out what I do, they have a very rapid choice. They either talk about Jesus or they ignore me.
Or they run.
Yeah. So you don't have the same opportunity for ongoing life-on-life salt and light interaction. We're presenting that vision, the vision that Jesus gives to his people, to say, look, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world.
Life on life.
Yeah.
Salt and light. I like that. Thanks for that, Josh. Well, we've been talking about vision for the church at large, with ideas about how to navigate societal pressures. Next up, we'll glean all kinds of good stuff from a letter written specifically to one church, a church that may have been more human than was warranted.
He begins by pointing to God. It's always the way. And it's the first thing that gets lost when church begins to go wrong. It starts to be about us, about me and my agenda. It starts to be a human organization.
1 Corinthians, our destination when we gather next time. GodCenteredLife.org is where you can circle back if you missed any of our Vision series, and this is your invitation to join us right here around God's Word for the God-Centered Life with Josh Moody.